wonderful conversation. How do we evaluate strategic change? What is the primary mechanism? If we're going to bring a brand new service into the live environment, how do we evaluate the success of that strategic change? Yes, Frank.
I guess you can say, you know, did that change meet the patterns of business activity for the service implemented, and is it, you know, the proper demand and capacity planning been done to make it available, you know, as it needs to meet the SLAs designed around it?
Absolutely. So, you know, going back to utility and warranty, was the objective met that we set out to meet? Now, when we went through service transition, or the RCV class, you'll remember that we covered that evaluation process, that it was a much more high-level process in that course. Remember, we were very much focused on how to migrate from change to release and deployment, the mechanics behind that. Evaluation was much more focused on the life cycle value of that opportunity. And so going back to that process is kind of important here from a managing across the life cycle perspective. There's really nothing in transition that focuses on the high-level value. Most of it is focusing on isolated changes or releases and transitioning. This is the part of the transition that truly focuses on, did we create the intended value proposition from a utility and warranty that we were expecting? Now, this is kind of a trip down memory lane. If you remember, the evaluation process takes in the service design package, the test plans, all of the stuff that was created as a high-level description of utility and warranty, and it determines whether the performance of what was predicted for that service is actually going to be achieved once that service is brought into the live environment. In the event that it determines that we are not going to achieve what we expected, they are the process that then begins to work with the stakeholders to manage their expectations. They are essentially managing risk and determining if it's not going to meet the marks, should we go forward anyway, getting the appropriate stakeholders in place in order to help us either assume that risk or back up and do what is necessary in order to mitigate that risk. So, you know, it was very much the process that focused on the value of that initiative being able to create for the business. And remember, we called on evaluation 3 times. After the build, after the test, and after the implementation. Those were the 3 critical points during that transition to make certain that that value contribution was created. So this process, although it seemed a little out of the scope within the RCV class, you can see from managing across the life cycle perspective, this is done and owned by the direction portion of the group, that their main focus is to make certain that strategic change is going to create the value that was intended. So key areas that they looked at, the intended effect, unintended effect, which doesn't necessarily have to be negative. Remember, sometimes we can create a positive unintended effect, and then they look at predicted versus actual performance. So that naturally brings us up, it's almost 8 o'clock. That means we've been at this almost 2 hours. Yeah, let's go ahead. Give me a green check if you're ready to go on break. This is where I know if you guys have actually walked away from the computer, if you're still listening to me. Okay, so I have a mass majority. I'll go ahead and put the timer up, and
Jeff
we'll
says
take
green
a
check
break.
too.
Pardon me, Rob? I didn't hear that.
Jeff says green check too.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Jeff. Via Rob. Rob is your empath. He lets us know what you're thinking and feeling at all times. All right. I'll see you guys back here in 15 minutes.
Hey, Julie.
Yes, sir.
I said next time we want to start going at 2-way streaming video so you can see Rob and I here with our cheese heads on.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you know, I knew I was going to get it.
You had to go to the Green Bay Packers store and overnight them.
Well, the only thing that's of value to me is that Packers lost this week. So my husband, who's a Badger fan, could not harass me where I couldn't come back and say, your team's a loser too, so don't talk about it.
Interracial marriage. So what do Badgers and Buckeyes end up with for children? Cheesy nuts?
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
That's a good one.
Well, see here, Rob, it's my second marriage, so we chose not to procreate. We came in with nuts and badgers, okay? So we didn't have to crossbreed those. Oh my gosh, there's something not right about this whole conversation.
Dial 1-800-HR.
I'm sure if you could see my face, I'm glad I turned the camera off, you would see all the shades of red I currently am. So I'm going to we're going to go on break now. Bye.
Okay, bye.